Guys. Okay, so I'm gonna do another chatting blog because I have been down so depressed for since the last one. Obviously, that's how I get. It's actually how I am behind the camera these days. And I know in the last one I talked about these things that are going on and taking innocent people like myself and putting us in the middle of certain situations that we were completely unaware of, and we're living through it. And then we look at our certain things too, in the aspect of it, of what we've actually survived through these events or through these things, or even some of the recollections that we get of certain things. And it's depressing for me because I had gotten so used to being, even though I wasn't completely like myself when I was on the other side of this, how I actually am before these odd changings in life had started again. And it's hard on me because I sit here and I'm crying. It's like I feel like I'm dying and crying inside because I can't go outside. I don't get to go socialize with people. I can't talk to people. I'm completely pretty much trapped in this house. It's like sitting in this house again. I feel like I'm doing something for a career once again. I'm sitting in this house again and I'm going through these recollections of different timings and just different things. And it was weird because the whole purpose was because I had left a situation like we talked about in the last vlog that just happened out of the blue, that was part of one of my stories, something that had happened up there from one of these ironic, wicked, weird things that happen and the way people are. And I had never had recollection of that because life had changed, obviously. And somehow things kept changing until it went back to this cycle again. So I look at that on different aspects, and it's so hard for me because it was like I literally stepped out of a life of being secure with somebody, or secure in a life totally different away from that. And it's so hard for me, and it's scary, especially when I was attached. Obviously I'm attached to what I was used to, and then the whole time it was something totally different that was going on once again. And I seem to find myself these situations like this, but to me it's like more of the people or the person. It's hard because I sit here and I'm hurting nonstop because obviously there's things I didn't know, and I look back at just certain things that happen that freaked me out or flipped me out. And generally in my head, because I had gotten used to it, my mind is very quiet and generally very stable. And I'm very lighthearted type of person normally. I normally I don't see dark at all. I don't see things that are normally confusing to my mind. So I've been going through this, and when I hear people start talking that I feel uncomfortable around anyways, or I pick up that they've been around people that I particularly would never be around, and I'm having to be around it, it bothers me because, again, all I see is an atmosphere or certain things that I'm not comfortable with. It's different when you're around a group, a team of people, and that you're safe. But when you're around people by yourself, or you're around these things and you're sitting here and you're going through certain things by yourself, and the things that are happening is real and they're really happening, and people know it's happening, and then nobody steps in to do anything, or right people don't they don't make sure you're okay, they don't pull you out of the situation. Because this is what I had found myself before, and some of these things that I had recollect through these things. And and I think about how quickly things happen where you get pulled out of that psychosis of what's going on, or the actual changing And I know I had talked about like like things that, you know, time, like literally I catch things. For instance, okay, so I was watching a thing. Thank God for YouTube for that aspect. There was some stuff like with Disney and stuff, and I could take, because I, you know, I am generally a very mellow person. Like my true actual self, I'm very mellow, very modest. I mean, obviously I'm not perfect, but I am like a modest type of person. But I'm one of these type of people that, like, I was used to going to like Disney World and going to the springs and like going, or wherever I was at, like doing normal, like pleasant type of things. And I had caught, you know, I was watching it on YouTube, and I had caught Disney World. Somebody was did a thing on Disney World, and my mind goes back to remembering being at these certain places when certain events happened or certain things had happened. And you sit there and your mind wonders, like, are you ever going to return to the way you was, like, you know what I'm saying, like how you was when these things happened, and you found yourself totally somewhere different than where you was in time. Are you going to find your family again? Are you going to find, like, is life going to ever resume back to that timing, and like who you was and what you were doing like at the time? And I know, like, some people look at it and they think it's crazy, and then other people, they know exactly because they go through it too. And so, like, so I was sitting there and I was catching like these different places that where I was at when I was actually, like, literally in my safety box and with my own like circle of actual people, before I got pulled into to the stuff that I had been going through again, which, like I said, it had been a while, but like all this changing somehow just led back up to this reoccurrence of me remembering, because I had went on with life from the where it's how it happened after the fact. You know, I just kind of went on with life, which we talked about. But then I look back, and like I said, I was watching some things like on Disney World, and there's places like Disney Springs here, and different stuff. And I started remembering myself in my mind, things that I was doing then, who I was, how I am, you know. And this is frightening. Like, this has been frightening, being stuck, feeling like I have nobody, I'm all alone. I've been completely stranded, no money, wasn't even allowed to stay at the job that I was brought to so I could have some kind of job security, not being in my own home, you know, my own comfort zone, having to, you know, stay with people, which generally, for a person like me who was a victim and who had to leave a place and come back because those people, you know, were around, and when you walk right back into it and didn't know, and then having to come back to a place where obviously you don't want to be because you were you were a victim to other people that was around too. So, you know, a person like me who've walked through like these different doorways and seen these things, I've always kept my head up and just kept going on. And so when I have to be around certain things and I start seeing like certain things that bother me, because I know what I had went through mentally and physically at one point in time when these events happened, and stuff that I had been running from this whole time, like trying to find places to restart and to be restabled into normal life, before you start finding people who are the same way of these, like, these incidents or these ways, that you have found through these times. It's really hard. And what's even harder is like someone like me who had had these dreams, like I had wanted to be an actress and I had wanted to do all this. So I can remember way back when this started, how life was, and that was like my life goal. Like, that's what I had wanted to do and stuff. Obviously, that was like a long time ago. But then things changed, and my path just kind of went to other areas of life. Um, so I never really thought about it. But then when I literally started experiencing this kind of life, like the way I've had to live in different, on my own, and different mannerisms, and seeing the mannerisms of certain people, um, I mean, you kind of like you kind of learn stuff, but for someone who's actually a victim and wanting to have that career and trying to figure out um, how you're supposed to, what is the word, handle the, like a character, I guess you can say. It's hard, like, because you kind of look on like both aspects of it. Like, I still have dreams, like those are still my dreams, and what I want to do when things change again, like what I want to do when things are better. But it's still hard because I've had to live through these different things, and it wasn't like it was fake, you know. On TV we do stuff for like because of things that happen out there, either if it's based on true or fictional. And but when you physically have gone through these things, like physically, mentally, and emotionally have truly gone through these things, it doesn't make it easy at all. Especially when you have to go through like all these different, these people who believe certain things. Like if you say one thing, or you know, you act one way and they treat you like horribly, or you know, you're not doing anything at all, but people obviously do things that they shouldn't do to people anyways. It doesn't make life easy. And again, being pulled back to seeing these things and trying to remember that peace of mind that you once had when you didn't have to, you thought that you wasn't going to be having to live and around people like this or in these situations. And so it's like my mind is struggling. Like, I'm going back and forth. Like, in my spirit, I'm trying to find that loving, peaceful, pleasant, safe atmosphere. But on the other side, like, something breaks through and I'm so depressed and I feel that demonic, these evil, nasty things, or I start having recollections of certain things and it gets in my mind. It's like some people start talking, or they, like, in their mind, if they try to hook their mind with mine or something, and they're literally like talking or know like about certain people that like, I'm one of those, I can talk about certain things, but in my mind I cannot see it. Like, I don't want to see it because there are certain people or certain events that I had actually been one of those people who was affected by it. And so it's really weird, like, because so last night, because of like where I was at, where I lived, and obviously went back into it, not realizing, thinking anything, but obviously like certain events of people or certain things that still go on, that linger on. I had went into it oblivious, because I had forgotten that I had actually went through it, physically and mentally. And so like last night I had another complete breakdown, because it's like I got this image of this person in my mind, and like these things happening, and then you start hearing all the things that you're already going through, and knowing that certain people are like really bad people. And then I go through my own like spiritual beliefs and stuff, and my own story of like in my mind is all I see is that the person I was with literally is living for that person, or that kind of person, and that's all I keep seeing around me anymore. And me being someone who obviously was away from it, and knows the difference between right and wrong and what these people do, and then physically seeing it, it's really hard. And then it's hard on me knowing that I was with a person that apparently took up took up a cross with the wrong types of people, and having to live in that life, or even having family, like literally being forced to live with family members or people who so-called family, who believe in these same things. It's hard for someone like me who was physically a victim, mentally, physically, and emotionally, by these same group of people, and having to go back into this and tell my story, you know, along with all this stuff that's going on, or to be completely opened to all this stuff. It has not been easy at all. And I just cried and I cried and I cried. And it's like, and then I look at it and I'm thinking, do you know what you're doing to the minds of other people, or to the minds of people who literally live through these weird events? And then all we want is to open our mind back to the better side of ourselves before the stuff happened, or to get back to society or to the world that we were living in. That's why I was talking about like seeing things that I used to live, like things I used to do before we just found ourselves living in the middle of these occurrence or reoccurrences. And then in the meantime of being pulled in when we never really realized it, literally finding ourselves in those the very states that these horrible events or these horrible weird phenomenons had happened, and having to recollect your own horrifying memories of things that had happened to yourself, right out of the clear blue, like literally once again living completely normal lives to these events just happening out of the clear blue, and knowing that you've had to go through it. And I guess for like me, like I rather keep my mind blocked and not having those recollections. I mean, obviously now it's like there because it was completely taken, I guess, obviously for my own safety, until people started causing problems, and they literally opened, like instead of opening the right doors for the better, they opened some of these wrong doors for the worst. And it's really hard because now I'm back to, I don't know who to trust. I can't see that pleasant, good everyday life that I had gotten used to. All I keep seeing is these horrible events, these horrible like memories or images of things that I physically went through myself throughout different times, and through these particular events that I had lived through during those actual times, when these things had happened, and finding myself like awake around these things again. It's not easy. Like it is just, it's not easy. And it's like all I want to do is run. Like all I want to do is go and hide again and get back around stuff. And then it makes it even harder because there's people in like different, like in the career that I had wanted to do, like in the entertainment business and stuff. And obviously like we've seen a lot of things that happen in that too. And then like you look at like certain things that had happened, and you wonder mentally and physically like who was causing these certain things, because again, living it just to see like what we've seen. And then like I sit here and I'm going through that too, and I think about it, and it's like almost putting fear into, like trying to make a person fear their work or fear everyday life, or to fear everything around you because you have to fear these other people. It is hard to have to live back through that, because I look back at doing the exact same things in a life around us, when these things we did not have to see these things. We could go on and do life and do these things that we do in life without seeing certain things. So when they make us, like when we just find ourselves going through these things or being around people, or realizing that people have rooted themselves around your safety boxes or your safety zones because of these falls or because of these changes, and not physically being able to connect to people that you once connected to, because their mind is been completely what do we call it, like their mind has been re-tainted because they're watching what these people are doing, or what what they've done, or whatever the situation is. So mentally it's hard for me to be around that. And again, going back to being used to doing certain jobs. Like, I went into home care, like when things settled back and I was trying to the only thing I could do was to relive, go through this life that, this, like we talked about in the last blog, that I've been living through. And I'm going through all this shenanigans. Remember, I told you guys, because of what I went through, and then finding out and knowing that was in public, and then trying to figure out how the hell I even got to it anyways. So I've been going through that too, and then trying to go on and live life like a normal person, like I was doing. And that's what I had gotten, my mind and my spirit is so used to it. I mean, I was used to being a pleasant person, so going back to home care, that was what I chose to do, for living, for normal everyday living. And I have to be a pleasant person. And obviously I've been through a lot of training, and I've watched like different people do different things, and I'm like back to that, and it really amazes me on how they act, because being someone who was actually brought from the other side of the right way of stuff, mental, physical, and emotional, spiritual thing, that's hard too. It's hard for me when I pick that up, because I was so used to, obviously being someone, when you can pick up that aura of stuff, when we're around people, or you're around older people or sick people or this or that, when they're sick and they're going through different things, they're not wanting to pick up these bad images or these bad auras. They're wanting, they're wanting that comfort and that safety box that we all got used, that we're all used to when we were still living in that safety comfort box. And when you're sick, you don't want to feel like that, and so I look at like these like two sides, like obviously like the two sides of that too. And when I'm like physically and mentally going through this stuff, it's hard because I know that I connect to people, and they're normally used to me being like upbeat, pleasant, very calm spirited, loving person, because that's truly how I was on the other side of all this. That's who I actually, who I am. That's how I am. So it's hard, and what had brought to this is I had started seeing these things, like some stuff when these events started again. I started sensing like a bunch of different things, and it was really baffling to me. Like, it really threw me off. Once I started first it was like this feeling, like I kept feeling icky all the time. I was very silent at that point. There's times I went back and forth. Obviously, I guess there was reasons because of people that I was around and I didn't know it. So I would sense like just the way my demeanor was, like I sensed certain things, and obviously I couldn't pinpoint, like I literally couldn't hear or see what it was, like certain things that was going on. And I just kept being upbeat and just kept trying to go, I'm like, oh, I don't feel well today, because mentally in my head I only knew my mind and spirit only knows certain things. So when these things happen and I walk back into a situation and had no clue about it, it has been really hard, because again, I was just seeing that, like myself, how I just kind of stepped out of a new world, and my pleasant side, I didn't really look at my image. I just went on with life like, okay, no big deal. This is just one of them things, but everybody's familiar around. You know what I'm saying? And so I didn't really think about it. I didn't like think hard about it. I didn't have no recollection. And so anyways, so I was going through like these certain things, like these emotional weirdness, which was completely off for me. But I started seeing like certain things and like around me, or like around my kids, and like these auras. I always picked up like auras or demeanors or like mood changes and stuff. And in my mind, I couldn't connect it, because I didn't have, like, my door wasn't open to that stuff, like, because that's just not my personality. So when I kept seeing this weird like thing coming through, and then I would see like a change in like certain things in my own home, or mood wise, or just different things. I could not figure out what was going on. And I would overlook it. Like certain things, I just overlooked it. I was like, oh, this, it's just, why am I being paranoid? I had no reason to be paranoid. And I was like, maybe it's just me or whatever. It wasn't as severe yet. And then when it started getting apparent, like certain things was going on, and it was odd because like the kids' father, like normally he was very normal, everyday normal, like I was. But if we were around certain people, like just happened to run across certain people, or was when this actually went down, we ended up in certain places, his demeanor would literally change. And he never showed it in front of me, but my kids would tell me like certain things. And obviously I listen to my kids because obviously I'm their protector for one, and then obviously being their mother for two, so I'm going to listen to them beforehand. But everyone's like, oh, they're just trying to play you and stuff. And I'm like, my kids don't play me. My kids know that if something's going on, they need to tell me, that they can trust me. If anybody, they can trust me because I know, you know what I'm saying? And so I started thinking, okay, well, I'm just gonna pay attention. Okay, I'll just watch, because they were telling me, they were trying to tell me these things. And so when his demeanor in certain situations that I had caught it had changed, and I started like having these like red flags, because it just didn't, like, it was weird. Like just everything I started seeing around me started changing. Like it was weird. It's like you open like this small, just like one small little thing, and then you start seeing certain things change than what you're used to. And I started catching that. So anyways, long story short, these things had happened. They just like led up to this what I'm going through now. And then being literally going back through, I was just doing normal. I had at one time up there, I did my community work when this originally went on, and I was involved in it when this went on too. But like they have the shelters and stuff, and me and my normal personality, I don't look at, like, I never seen like the baddest stuff. I was like, it was a job, and I was part of community, and da 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 da, just like I was before. And well, we had ran into hard times. So I was like, obviously I can use my community skills and do my community work, because they had programs where you can get so many hours in if you worked at the shelters, and you had to stay and work at the shelter and this, that, and the other. And they were supposed to help pay, like they would do the HUD, like how we do HUD homes and stuff. Well, it came down to it. I was like, well, I'll just, we're going through this stuff. We can get our community hours, and we'll make it through this. I have faith we'll get through it. Never having a recollection of the bad side of this ever. And so certain events happen again that flipped me out, and then he did some things that he shouldn't have did. And so that was just the start of a downfall. While I was still trying to keep my cool and keep myself up after having my breakdown and trying to get away from that, I went on to another shelter up there, and literally the one that I had walked into was the actual one that I had been at, that I was working at back then, when all this had happened before, when this stuff had happened. And the person that was supposed to be there with me, that came from a different shelter that I was doing the community work when I was staying, I thought was like an okay person, like a protective person. And come to find out that he wasn't. He actually like lured me into the situation. And he was there when that event had happened with these people, and these people were around. When we went, obviously I was trying to keep myself up, like I wasn't really thinking anything, but I felt so demonic, like I felt so weird when I was there. And these things, like, just, it was so strange. And And then I'm sitting there and I'm being happy-go-lucky with these people, like I always am with people. And something had happened again up there. I have no clue what happened this time. Like, I really don't. I woke up and like I went to sleep there or whatever, shut my door, and I remember I woke up in the bathroom with a bunch of people around me, and I was puking or whatever. I don't know what I was doing. Well, anyways, long story short, I had bruises from my backside all the way down my leg. My uterus was swollen. Um, it was like, I don't know, it was like somebody beat the crap out of me, and they said that I fell. They said I fell in the bathroom, and I ended up going to my doctor's. I couldn't handle the pain anymore because I really didn't know what was going on, and I was kind of scared. And like with all this stuff going on, I was really scared actually. And my mind still hadn't opened to my memories until I got away from there. I went to the doctors. I had my uterus taken out. Like they said, I need to have, like Laura, you need to have it out now. So I went and had it out. I got away from that, that person or whatever that was there with me. And then my mind, they opened everything like in the midst of this, and my mind just started. And as I've been going through this, I started having the memories of what happened up there, and having me back around these people, and then wonder, was like, because I was drugged or whatever, wonder if they did the exact same thing, and that's why I had all those bruises and stuff on me. Like, I don't really know what happened. And so having to relive through that, and then my mind just, like, the last things that I remember from originally from my story, and knowing that I was doing this for my family, and remembering these people that were there and what had happened. And I don't even know how to grasp it, because in my normal reality of life, it's like these things just don't up and happen, like they just don't happen, period. And going all this time would change. My life was completely different. Never recollecting any of this until they opened it up, and I literally found myself back in the same situation. These same people were there in the same place that I had been for years. And I was there before having any recollection. That's when we were doing our story, and for the kids, and all of the stuff that I was doing had started, and I never had a recollection. I never knew any of it. And I had went through a lot of other hard times in the midst of this, because you just get these certain things just would happen out of the blue. And me being tormented, and me being so, however I was at the time, I was very sensitive. I was hurt. I had already overcome what I had went through. The other part of the downfall of that same thing coming here, I'd went through a lot in my life through the protection of what had happened. And so I never really said anything. Like, I didn't say anything. I just went through these different things. And just like seeing all these things now, it is hard. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm scared to death, and all I keep thinking is, all I want to do is get back to the other side of life before I went through this stuff again. And I am so angry, and I am so scared. Like, I am scared to death. Like, I don't even know what to think. And to know that I've been stranded from how my life could have been completely stranded in these situations, and literally took the same situation to try to make good out of it, of normal life. and walking, taking a normal person, a normal life, normal work, and walking into these things, and having to remember it. And I have to live here. Like, I have to live with this every single day now. Like, now that I have the recollections and now that it happened again, I have to live with it again every single day. It's in my mind. I can't go out. I'm like completely stranded where I can't go out and be active. I can't go out and be around my own like comfort of people. I can't do anything, and I can't even see life before having to go back through this out of the blue again. And I don't know. I just don't know how to look at it. Like, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. I really don't, because I don't know. A lot of it was because of my children, obviously, because I had children up there. And it was the path, obviously. It was back on the same path that I can't seem to get away from. It just keeps happening. But everything be completely normal, like everything in life, like work day to day. I was a home health aide. I was a volunteer at these places. I lived in this community. I had lived, where I had actually lived,